call the meeting to order. We have a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay. Been moved by Amanda. Second by David. All in favor? The minutes approved. We need to approve the minutes of the July 20th budget workshop. Any additions or corrections to that?
So moved.
It's been moved by Amanda. Second by Larry. All in favor? Approved. And then we need to approve the minutes on the July 21st budget workshop.
So moved.
Moved by Amanda.
I'll second.
Second by David. All in favor? Approved. Okay, Sheriff's report. Cody's not here. He is. We'll go back to him. Visitors. Okay. New business. We'll let the Fair Board. Josh, you got the floor.
I'll have a whole network going to be first. You can prefer me to sit or stand, doesn't matter.
Whatever you want to do.
Okay, as you saw in your paperwork, I assume we were proposing to have a concert at the Band Shell. The gentleman's name is Brent Michael Wood. He's just kind of a country blues. I mean, he kind of does anything. He's been doing it for about 20 years. And our proposal to this was, one of the bigger reasons is our grandstand, as you've probably seen at the fairgrounds, have blown over, like the stage we had made and whatnot. We just felt like we didn't have time for one to fix anything. And then it also opened the opportunity to have a beer garden, hopefully, along with the event to help incentivize attendance, whatever. So that's kind of about all I have. I didn't know if you guys had any good suggestions, questions, things like that. I'm open to input. Obviously, we've never done it before. If we do go ahead with the beer garden, I mean, we're not going to be part of it as a fair board, but we'd like to know, where it's going to be, things like that, I guess. So.
Is it a free concert or admission?
It's admission, yes.
Admission?
Yes.
And that proceeds back to the
Fair, yes.
No.
We haven't, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. No, I was going to say, we haven't nailed down the admission fee yet, I guess. I mean, it'll be like any, it'll be reasonable. I don't want to speak out of turn, but obviously it's not going to be over $20. I'm sure it'll be more like 10 or 15, so.
Where's the band going to be playing? In the band shell?
In the band shell, correct, yes.
Do you have someone lined up for your beer garden yet?
So the application in there was for my wife as an individual to do it. We're in the process of getting the sales tax number. I faxed that information off to the state. They said the typical turnaround is about 3 to 4 days of getting that number back, and then we essentially should be good to go as long as we know where would be the best location to put it. I mean, I figured some of you have probably been involved in certain events, could speak from experience. So.
The music's in the band shell. You might want to set it up nearby that.
Right.
That's the way we normally do it.
Right.
I don't know if being in the basketball court would work too well.
Right.
Yeah.
Be too much to track.
Yeah. People complain a lot.
Right.
We've done that before, I think.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
This is hot.
Yeah, because before on some of them, it's just set up just to the south side of the band shell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of in underneath those trees.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
And did you set up panels to make it an actual, this is the beer
Yeah,
garden?
we made
keep
the-
it here?
We made the park the perimeter. So
Okay.
As long as the beer stayed in the park, we were
Right.
flagged off.
Right.
Everybody kind of watched everybody.
Okay.
How are you going to contain it to charge admission?
So that is one of the discussions we had at our last, we had a meeting, a fair board meeting last Wednesday, and we haven't came up with a good idea of that yet, I guess. We're just, I don't know if it's obviously going to take multiple members around the perimeter or a set of signs and maybe possibly some fences to help, for lack of a better term, herd people to certain locations to get them, I guess. But
Trying to raise, what kind of work?
Well, at least break even. So the band itself is $1,500, and obviously there's miscellaneous advertising fees, things like that, so. I mean, honestly, yeah, as long as we break even, that's great. If we make money, that's even better. So I'd love to see 200 and some people there at least, but you just never know how it's going to go. So.
And that'll be on a Wednesday night then?
Thursday.
Or Thursday night,
Right.
yeah, Thursday.
Yep.
Thursday the 6th, yeah.
We're going to try to squeeze it into Friday, but Troy Swigert, he had already obviously had most of his Tough Trucks events organized, and so it would have been hard to switch. Friday would have been probably a lot easier, maybe sort of for some families being the beginning of the weekend or not, but we just thought, well, we'll go with it the way it is, and maybe plan better for next year.
All right, another thing I think you should probably do once, if council agrees with going with this, is also talk to Cody or the sheriff's department.
Correct.
Let him know that you would be having this going on in the beer garden, because then you'd probably put an extra person or two
Right.
out too, so.
Okay.
Did anybody, council have any questions?
I have a point to point out that their application does not have insurance coverage check, and if the council is approving the beer garden, I would advise the council to require additional insurance.
You've got that in the works,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to come here, I guess, and visit with you guys and make sure everything was pretty well to go before I committed to say, yeah, okay. And then obviously they get the insurance or whatnot, just to make sure everything's squared away.
Do the commissioners have any say on the fair board? I guess I'm not sure how that dynamic works.
So it's, I mean, obviously, as a fair board, are you just referring to where we have the concert or what? I guess.
Just in general, I mean, do they need to give permission for the fair board to do this? I guess I'm sure.
So as to where the concert is, I don't believe so. As long as we're in our means for our insurance and comply with any other, I guess, it's pretty simple litigation, I guess. You have an event, as long as you don't got to step out of your boundaries. But there is, I believe that you guys might, there's a commissioners meeting, is it this week? Yeah, I was going to say the end of this week. But anyway, so we get this, if you guys were to accept it and whatnot, we were going to go to them and, yes.
The reason I ask is I know they prohibit beer garden out
Right.
there, so the request is a little bit too far. One, you say the facility isn't ready, but the other thing is
Right.
for the beer garden.
Right, right. And where there'll be no ties to, I guess, Fair Board itself, we felt comfortable proceeding that way. It's not going to be Fair Board presenting, here's the Cheyenne County Fair Beer Garden. It's going to be one individual doing
I just
it.
didn't know if they had any sort of needed to be informed or anything.
Right.
And this would be the first time we ever did a, I don't know if you call it for profit, but admission. I don't think we've ever done anything like that, have we? Since we started doing this. Not that it matters, I'm just, we don't have anything to go by as far as how you.
And do you call for profit, because Fair Board isn't really in, they're just trying to cover their expenses.
More so the concern of how you do it.
Yeah.
It's a public park that's wide open. I think is what the place is. And that's
You said for their crowds.
Do the whole thing.
The whole city park? Yeah, we'll try to get enough.
Armed guards on the corner, animals in between.
I'm sure we can round up enough stuff. I understand it's a new idea and something maybe it's somewhat unconventional, and obviously I don't want to rub anyone the wrong way, but we're just trying to make, it's obviously last minute as well with all the COVID jazz and trying to line things up, but we figured we'd go for it and see what you guys thought as well.
If anyone makes a motion to approve it, it needs to be contingent, obviously, on the insurance, the cereal malt beverage, and the fees.
Contingent upon the insurance.
Second.
Okay, been moved.
And the license.
Yeah, as long as they've got everything in place.
Right.
Yeah, the license, the insurance, and everything. Kayla's made the motion, Amanda seconded it. across there and get everything done.
Right.
So there's that.
The question, you guys take the application, do you send it to the state, or what, how do you, the cereal malt beverage?
So,
You would have to do that part.
not for the cereal malt beverage.
I thought you meant for the, oh wait, never mind.
So it's different for cereal malt beverage than
Right.
what you've always done. So those are licensed through the city. So
Right.
we handle all the paperwork as long as you pay your fees.
Right,
And then you get Jen takes care of the cereal malt beverage.
correct, okay. Right,
And then you just have to get the tax ID from the state.
yes, yeah. Yeah, you print off a CR-16 form, is what it's called, and then you can just fax that in, and, yeah, that has to be obviously
You
approved.
fill it out when you're done and send it off, right?
Right,
Okay.
yep.
And he's got all his paperwork here and
All right,
filled out.
sounds good.
You guys want to, well, it's on your share.
I think so.
Oh.
More opportunities for
Let's try it.
trash
You want to
receptacles.
see?
Yeah, I'll look at it.
Right,
Obviously, whatever looks like it's to be picked up by the first ring, things and everything else getting,
who would I
that's
call
what we went from.
with you about the trash then? Okay. Can I get your number so I have it for reference?
It's 332-4045. And if you need to look at the electrical or anything ahead of time, in the band shell or the band needs any information,
Okay.
you can certainly look at that ahead of time too. It's been sufficient so far for the other ones, things are fine, but,
Okay. Could I ask your name, please?
okay, our planner.
Okay. Oh, wow, I put a face to the name.
I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Probably not.
Oh, that's a good thing. Oh, that's perfect. Well, we'll proceed as planned and be in touch.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Helen.
Well, I just wanted to see if you had any questions or anything on what Carrie presented the other night.
Well, it was pretty thorough with it, I thought. Anybody got
There's
any questions?
information that we wish we had a total on or something. Oh, was that the
Revenue.
county gave, or no, there was something.
His revenue, the revenue sources. That
The
was,
county is 32,000 and the city was 24 something, and we got a $1,500 in donations. And there was 2 or 3 grants that we got last year. And so on the budget, the amount that's on there is if I never shared rides or anything, or nobody else paid for things like that Travel and Adventure Show. Should they have it this year, it's a situation where Junction City signed up and paid booth fees and everything, and then they couldn't go, so they asked if myself and another person could go down and do it, so the only expense that we would have on there is just the food. But if we paid for it, that's the figure that's in there. And a lot of times we share rides, we get discounts on rooms and things like that, so that budget is based on me doing stuff alone. So that's why we usually don't spend that much.
You anticipate more grant funds next year?
I don't have any idea. I don't know if there's going to be out there. If there's some grants available, sure, apply for them.
How would you able to use the grants? I mean, what were they specific funding for specific things?
For specific things, or maybe you got a grant to do a show, or, do some advertising or something like that.
So it wasn't part of just the regular spending budget, it was specific items.
It was for a specific item in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And then I also, what I did is you have a copy that says for sale, and that's the information that I have on the motel property that will be used to fill out the form to put it on location 1, which is actually going through Sunflower Electric because we're not a member of the Kansas Economic Development Alliance. But they will put it on their website and promote it that way. And that goes such a nationwide website that will go on. And then various other places depending on what they ask, that's the information that I'll pass on. And I also have the drawing that shows all the property rights and things like that. So I have more information, but this is the basic information. So I thought you might like to have it if you know someone that might be interested. And I did check, I have a sign and a blank in the office, and I did get a couple of estimates today just on having a sign with a white back, just a regular real estate size sign, 24 by 18 by 24, that just says for sale and a phone number. And one of the estimates was for $35, and the other was for $50, but I do think we need a sign up there. So obviously I'll go with the least expensive one, and those are local estimates that I got on that. And then I've also got a list of different real estate companies outside the area and in Kansas that I'll be sending this information to. And then the other thing I have is there's an estimate here from Publication Printers for a brochure. And my recommendation was to do probably 2,500 of them. I've got an estimate for more, but, you know, with things changing, I hate to do more than 2,500 and kind of see how long those would last. And Publication Printers is an easy printing company to work for. It is out of state, but it's less expensive than any in-state. And then I have George Swigert has given you 2 copies of 2 different mock-ups of the brochure for you to kind of look over and see, you know, any comments or suggestions, revisions. There's obviously some things you need to change in it, but just wanted you to take a look at it and then make some comments. You don't have to make comments right now. You can call me with them if you want to, but I want to have some time to review it.
I like the one that's got the sagebrush in it, and wording stands out better on it.
Yeah.
Are these going for print, or is this, are these going to be flyers, or what?
Yeah, it'll be like a
Oh,
four-fold kind of deal like this, the front and back, so you know.
okay.
I didn't bring one with me tonight that's that size.
And I like the second page better too. Myself.
Or if you like, you know, like I said, you can switch them however you want, you know.
Kel was just wondering to me, why there's a picture of Park Hill and not Fresh 7?
Well, you know, that's just what you put on there, but we're open to change them, and I will tell you that, you know, it's like when I just previewed a thing for, and no offense to you, Gail, but I just previewed a thing for the State White magazine, and they put Fresh 7 in there, and I put the Tinrick Baking Company, because we've already done Fresh 7, and I think we need to turn it around. So if you want something besides Park Hill, we can put Fresh 7 in there. We can put,
I'm mainly messing with you.
you can put anything in
No,
there.
there
but-
should be a photo a little more appealing, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
A little, yeah.
Than it looks like a building site.
Uh-huh.
Okay. More appealing. Maybe inside
Or
or something different.
maybe we do the Tinrick baking because they're new.
We could do that.
It's attractive.
And it's a little bit more attractive if you
Yeah.
take the picture from the front there than, yeah, it just would be,
I don't have to put a Coleman logo or something.
yeah. On additional events, I think you can still put in their car show, it's gonna happen. They're gonna go ahead with it. The Pike Timber Fest. That'll probably be definitely an annual deal.
And I do have a list of events, so we'll try to get everything in there that we can.
Not the booth, Scott, I think the Sagebrush one does look better.
I mean, I can just read it better. I mean, when I just picked it up, it just stands out better to me. And I think the brakes looks better that way too.
They both look really good, but I think this one stands out, like you said.
Okay, so this one is at the front, you like this better? And then which one is the second one? The one with color, the
color one.
okay?
But that's my opinion.
Will any other businesses complain if they're not on here?
Then the next time it comes around, we'll change them. I mean, because that's what I've been doing with everything. You know, we can't put everybody in there all the time, but that's why I said, if we do 2,500, I'm not sure. We've been going through a lot of brochures up in the rest area, but I don't want to have so many that, like we did with the Cheyenne County brochure, that we must have had 10,000 in the office when I got here, and everything is wrong, and you never get rid of them.
Right.
You know, I want things out in a year, 2 years max, because things change. We get new, you know, people come and people go, and
What is St. Francis Hall?
Yeah, I was wondering what
The
the
lodge.
Fleming Lodge was too.
the Flemings have a lodge that they rent out. It's 4 bedrooms, vacation home, and,
Where's Fleming?
Isn't it clear southeast of Bridge City?
Oh, okay. St. Francis Home. Who is that one? Because I need
that's
to...
Candy Down.
Oh, Candy Down.
Where is that located?
It's in St. Francis.
Really?
Somewhere?
I think that maybe some people are very reluctant to give me a bunch of information because maybe they don't want to pay transit gas tax, quite frankly.
It's the lodge at their house.
It's a what?
It's the lodge at their house. Yeah, at their house.
Oh, your old
This
house.
is just, it's a
No, I don't
house.
think that's a lodge.
This is that,
Yeah, you bet.
I'm thinking of an annex.
But I don't know what the address is.
The Warren Cookhouse on that.
This is just a question I have.
Yeah, it's up there.
And if you want, I can get addresses.
Right.
I'll just say, if you want to be on this, you have to give me an address.
Cookhouse that they bought.
Yeah, they do kind of need addresses.
Okay.
Helen, the question I was asking Carol is, the Riverwalk is appealing to us because we're here, we know it. But for someone outside, would something like the golf course, the picture up there, would that look more, I don't know.
I mean, I think everybody knows what a golf course looks like.
Keller Pond, I like the picture of Keller Pond.
You could put Keller Pond and Riverwalk and do like a photo of Keller Pond so that they know there's a Riverwalk. Because it's the Riverwalk by Keller Pond, isn't it?
Is this what the picture of Keller Pond on it?
Yes.
So a picture of Keller Pond.
But this one has a picture of Kellogg on it.
Oh,
And
it
the
does?
Riverwalk both.
Yeah.
And it could just be, you could put, you know,
The Riverwalk looks nice. I'm gonna look at it. Your pictures are here.
So instead of the Riverwalk and the events underneath there, what would you like a picture of? You've already got exhibit in.
Do you have a nice picture of the breaks? Like a sunset picture of the breaks? Those, that's
Cheyenne County Museum.
art gallery.
All good suggestions.
You've already kind of got a picture of the brakes on the front.
Perhaps they should be
I'll
at
take
the,
that out.
perhaps they should be at the bottom.
And maybe put on the, virtually Kansas, so people know they're not located.
Well,
Well, and there's,
Killingsworth isn't on here. Well, that's not open to public. Bed and breakfast? Oh, I thought you meant the, oh,
I was gonna say, because there's another one over, doesn't Isley have a rental over?
Yeah.
Isley's have a place, yeah.
We close that.
I could just take limited lodge off, and maybe we could put
Killingsworth on
Killenborg for
there.
others.
Does do Keller's rent out that bunkhouse thing? We've had,
It's kind of full of their family right
That's
now.
a family.
okay. I didn't know we had,
And
when I
I
was on
can check with
66 yet.
Killenborg again before they didn't want me to advertise, but I'll check with them.
Oh, okay.
I think for dining, you almost want a picture of food. Yes, that's all that looks delicious,
Yeah.
instead of a building. Like something from one of these restaurants that looks tasty.
Okay?
Who does steaks?
Caddyshack does that, and they have shrimp on top of them sometimes. Like Kelsey will post a picture of the steak covered in shrimp with mashed potatoes. They are good.
Probably has steaks. Not Hilltop, like the one.
I'll get some food pictures of it.
You can get a couple photos, would fit there. 4-way photo. Would that work or no? Too small, too busy?
Yeah, too busy.
I'll get some pictures of food and bring them in.
Yeah, let's get some food options.
Okay.
I do like on the other flyer though, where it says St. Francis as good as it gets, if we can put that as good as it gets somewhere.
The reason he didn't do as good as it gets, can it get better?
Yeah, that's always.
I know you wait as good as it gets, but can it get better?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it keeps getting better.
Yeah. Just say, we're getting better.
That's like the It'll Do Motel in Atwood.
It'll do
now. Good enough for
I
now.
gotta stay there once, it'll do.
That's right.
Work in progress.
But basically, they've done a nice job.
Looks like it.
Yeah, it does.
We'll work on it and get back with you on it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Do you need us to approve the brochure purchase now?
I think, did you approve up to $1,500?
Oh, I think we did.
Yeah.
Last month.
And I don't know what Jordan's gonna charge, but he's been real reasonable on everything he's done for me, so it will be under the 1,500. And I don't, the delivery isn't on there. If they open these up in Denver, I can even pick those up, but see what happens. I do have a lot of things. So that's all I have, unless you have something else.
Anybody got any questions? Good job, yeah, thanks, and we're trying to help you out a little bit more this year on our budget if we get it through.
I appreciate that.
Is this thing just for the sunflower deal, or what is?
Okay, that's all the information I have, except for the drawing that I have from the appraiser's office that has the measurements and things on it. The overview, has the actual motels on it, but that information will go other places, but not all of them ask for that same information.
So, but I was just curious, did you decide not to put the covenant on there for a motel only? And I'm just asking, was that decided not to do that?
I can put it on for motel only. Or do you want to decide that somebody wants to put another business on there that is acceptable?
I think we kind of decided that. We'll just leave it open and then, because we can decide what's in the one or not. If it's a business that we're gonna bring in and have 20 or 30 employees and be a small manufacturing deal, we probably go ahead. over a motel, because whatever would bring something to town. I mean, well, I think we'd all prefer to see a motel, but I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious.
And like I said, that last meeting, there was some still talking about trying to get some plans drawn up for just something simple, like a 20-room motel. That's not coming around very fast either, so. It'd be nice if something like that was in place and they could get cement run this fall and be something that could be enclosed and working on all winter and be ready to go next spring.
Sounds to me like leave it open.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Helen. Pictures stand out better on that one, too.
Yeah.
I don't know if they mentioned that, but the Riverwalk and Keller Pond are both on the front page, too.
And on the second page.
Yeah, it's on the second page, so
So we can switch some of that.
come up with some other ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the next item on there is the Virus Relief Fund Resolution 2020-5.
Did you have a chance to look at it?
I have no concerns or objections. I have no concerns or objections on it. When I reviewed it, I just want to make sure that, I know there's going to be a task force established, but I'm really paying attention to sections 1, 2, and 3 of what is allowed and what is not allowed going forward, and making sure that making sure when funds are spent, they're spent pursuant to this, so the city isn't getting themselves in hot water.
This is not the one that the city got. This is the one that the county got. These are the grant funds, the spark funding that the county got, the $500,000.
Okay.
This is a resolution that the city has to pass in order to get a share of that. We
Right.
don't really have a say. I mean, we submit our expenses to them, and then they do.
And then they approve it?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is separate from the other one that we
Okay.
just got.
But, I mean, when we're submitting expenses, we still need to make sure that they're following 1 and 2 and not 3.
So the only thing that we have had is on that summary that I gave everybody. You probably will have to just go to the share and look at summary of expenses. Find it here. We only had like $1,000 worth of expenses that were eligible to be submitted. We had Zoom meeting costs, we had the breath guard at the theater, we had the creation of the CDBG resolution. There wasn't very much. JR and I kind of talked about it. We haven't had any employees out on leave because of COVID. Now this is ongoing, so we had to submit expenses from March through the end of July, and I had to have those in by last Friday, with a final submission this Friday. This is a fast-moving thing. The deadline is the 15th of August for the county to get stuff sent to the state. So it's fast. But one of the things they talked about today in the task force meeting, the people that are on that are Kelly Milliken, Scott Houtman, Attorney Fines, and somebody else, and I can't remember. And then they have hired a consultant to help with the whole process. And it's overwhelming. We can, if the council wants to look forward and think about things that they think we need for COVID in the future, like hand sanitizer stations around town, stuff like that. I mean, we can do that, and we could submit those expenses if that's something I guess what I'm getting at is if they don't spend the money, then it goes back to the state. So they're pushing for us to give them stuff to spend the money on. I don't, but that's up to you guys to decide if you want to go that route or just submit expenses that we legitimately incur and not try to create expenses. Even though I guess maybe some of those things we need, I don't know. That's for you guys to decide.
When you say that it needs to be, I mean, the resolution, it states that it goes all the way until December
Right.
30th, so, but you're stating August 15th. Can we submit,
Yes.
we can submit expenses after August 15th?
Yes.
My question for this is that with city court moving over into city council chambers, with a potential second wave that they're talking about this fall, I mean, obviously, we're not required to implement the same thing that the district court is, but we may want to.
Right.
And so, until we have that August 19th, I don't want to call it a trial run because it's going to be over here, but until we actually have court over here on the 19th, I don't know what may or may not be any issues until we have the chance to try and work the bugs out.
Right.
So I just want to verify that in the event we needed additional, we could submit it to the county.
I think so. It is so confusing. If anybody wants to go to the meetings, I've sent the links out there every Monday. I'd encourage anybody to call in and listen to them to find out. But it's so complicated. But my understanding is, yes, we can continue to submit expenses on a monthly basis this first round. The problem is from this point forward, my understanding, right now it's a reimbursement. So moving forward, people can request funds for specific things to do. Like if the school wanted to buy a bus or something for social distancing on the bus, the funds moving forward could be used for that now. It's not a reimbursement type expense. But I believe if the funds are there, yes, we can continue to submit reimbursements. But that's the one that's coming from the county. So that's what this resolution is for. I'm sorry, I've been, what are those?
Okay. So there's a motion to approve this resolution 2020-5. Okay, it's been moved by Amanda. Second by Dara. All in favor? Approved.
What's that? Oh, yeah, we probably do. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. David? You got a vote. So David?
Also,
Cale? Amanda? Dara?
Yes.
Barrett? Yes.
Okay. And I'll send you guys out the information for the Zoom meeting again, in case anybody wants to go next Monday. It's 3:30 on Mondays is what they're doing every week now to keep everybody kind of informed what's going on.
Just my 2 cents, but I don't think we're going to do anything that's not legit.
Well, I wouldn't say it's not legit, but one of the suggestions that was thrown out there today was putting hand sanitizer stations around your community. And that's legit. I don't mean to imply that it's not, but I guess it's not for me to decide if it's necessary. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. If you feel like there's things that are necessary that the community could benefit from, then that's what we can request funds for, yes. So I guess give it some thought, and if you come up with some ideas, they are brainstorming right now. We are trying to network with each other, Birch City. There's a lot of stakeholders, the county, Birch City, housing authorities. There's a lot of them. They're talking about establishing grant funds for businesses. If the funds are not spent, perhaps using the funds as like a grant, which is kind of like what we might be doing with our funds that we got that we're going to talk about next. But just things like that.
One of the questions, just we're talking about this now is, I was reading a few articles last night on this whole situation. It's happening more in the larger cities than it is in small towns like this. But someone went down with COVID. They backtrack their last 10 to 14 days and say they were in Fresh 7 one of those days, they find themselves an attorney, and then they go after Fresh 7 and sue Fresh 7. Have you heard of anything like this taking place?
I have not. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of litigation coming down the pipes. There's been discussion. I know that I've corresponded with several plaintiffs' attorney, and the reason that a lot of my colleagues have said that they're hesitant to take on a case like that is that they have to prove causation. I mean, you have to prove each element of your claim. You have to prove causation. You have to prove damages. You have to prove proximity. You have to prove... And if they've been there 10 to 14 days ago,
Almost impossible.
right, I mean, how do they know they got it from Fresh 7? They were at Fresh 7. They could have gotten it here. They could have gotten it there. I mean, the defense to that is all you've shown was that you were at my establishment. You have not shown what contact caused it, what the exact time. I mean, unless they are able to pinpoint in testing with the stage of the disease an approximate date and time when you acquired the disease. I mean, are there multiple strains? Did you get one and not the other? It's so up in the air. And I'm sure that there are going to be attorneys to take on these cases and that they're going to have to prove each element. But I don't know how. We don't have any case law or any established precedent to show how successful a claim would be, or how the court is going to look at it, or what level of burden is going to be borne by an individual. And normally, the burden of proof is established, but so were a whole lot of other things prior to January of 2020, and so the law with everything else is changing. I mean,
You go there on your free will, too.
Right. I mean,
That's what...
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how any of that would turn out. I mean, generally speaking, when someone is making a claim, they have to prove each element of their claim. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who get paid a lot of money to try and figure that out, but I don't know. I don't know how that's going to
It's more
go.
complicated in larger cities.
Right.
More.
I'm sure somebody's hiring a $1,000 an hour attorney to figure out how to get every penny they can from an incident. But I don't know how that's going to play out, and we won't know until we see. Really, even district court cases being decided district court cases aren't binding precedent, even for, they're just not. I mean, until we see appellate court, Supreme Court, something higher up, we're not gonna know, and that could be years. I mean, it quite literally takes years to get through that level of litigation. So it might be 2 to 3 years before we have any form of precedent.
Okay, well, let's move on to the CDBG-CV grant task force creation.
That's the one that we just got. That's the one that we applied for, the $300,000, and we got 173,600. So I just about 3:30 this afternoon got an email with a bunch of documentation. Have not had time to look at it. Justine is our grant administrator for that one. But I am positive that probably what the council will want to consider is establishing a task force to decide how this money is going to be utilized. They've allocated $35,000 of that, 100 and whatever, to meals, and then the rest of it was for the economic development support, and that's how they kind of divided the funds out. 15,000 of it goes to our grant administrators. But that's about all I got looked at today, but I think it would be This one is not on a short timeline like the one from the county. We don't have deadlines that are coming up in a week or two. So we've got a little bit of time. I'm going to talk to Justine this week and figure out where we go next. But I initially thought we would want to create this task force tonight, but I don't think that there's that urgency. But I think the council needs to think about who would be good on the task force to decide this, or if you just want the council to be making the decisions. I feel like there's going to be a lot of meetings that are going to happen outside, and a task force, would a task force have to be, they would have to be open meetings, type meetings too, would they not?
I believe so, because it's using public funding.
Yeah. So whatever you decide to do, it's up to the council, but, do you want anybody else on it, like community input? I mean, that's,
Yeah, well, that's,
I don't know. And it's possible that Justine maybe has some ideas as well,
But the more people that get involved, then you got more, everybody's got different thoughts too. So I think if you keep it down to no bigger group than this, you're better off.
I will say that it's going to be a lot of work for my office. I'm planning to put Cody in charge of trying to manage the paperwork side of it, but it will be a lot of work. Reviewing the applications would be your job then to decide how to allocate those funds and that kind of thing. So I think I'll have Justine come. You won't be at the next meeting, right? We may have to call a special meeting and have Justine talk to you guys about what the next steps are, if that works for everybody. So,
Because people out there are going to have to apply.
mhm.
And then once you come in, then we try to figure out how to divide that money up.
And there was a sample application in the information that they sent me today. I didn't look at it closely, but it was an application, a business application, so that somebody has already put one together, so we don't have to do that. But what I can do is I'll create a share, and I'll put all these documents out there, and you guys can look at them and see what was sent today and kind of see what I'm seeing, and we'll go from there.
So for right now, we'll probably just stay with the task force that's being the council. And then we might have to meet earlier, at least once a month anyway, to go over those. Okay, well, we'll see how it comes out. Okay, on to old business. Okay, we need to finalize the 2021 budget review approval.
Yeah, we need to, a couple of things that need to happen before you approve it to be published. I need to request, Angela pointed out that the council needs to make a motion to approve all of the special funds that have been created, even though the bond documents authorize most of them. We still need a council vote and approval. So I'm going to ask for the council to approve the creation of the budgeted fund, which was the infrastructure sales tax fund for the 1% sales tax. That's the only one that is a budgeted fund.
Okay, I hear a motion to approve that special fund. So, who said first? David made the motion and Bear seconded. All in favor? Approved.
Okay. And then the next is the creation of the following non-budgeted funds for the bond and the street project. The bond and interest fund is for the debt service on the bonds. The infrastructure improvement fund is for the portion of that 1% local sales tax that's not used for debt service, goes into the infrastructure improvement fund, and it's a capital improvement fund, just like our other capital improvement funds. It's not budgeted, it can be spent as needed. The projects and the cost of issuance funds, those were specifically for the bond proceeds. We talked about this at the last meeting. There was about $32,000 of that went into the cost of issuance, and the rest of that went into the projects fund, and those are the bonds that we'll be using for the street project when we start getting bills for that. And then the grants fund is also for the street project, and that is specifically for the CDBG, the $600,000 that we get from them. The money will go into that, and we have to be able to show everything coming in and going out. So that's what those funds are for.
Do you hear a motion to start up these new funds? Moved by Amanda, second by Cale. All in favor? Approved.
And then the budget changes on the budget that you see there, the final budget. We increased CCDC from $24,378 to $26,816. We increased senior center allocation from $8,000 to $8,800. Angela suggested rather than making the line item and calling it donations, she said that was not an appropriate description for what it is that we're intending those funds for. She recommended, we talked about it, and we thought community services allocation was a better description of what those funds are going for. She thought donations implied that anybody could come in and ask for a donation, whereas those are community service organizations. So that's called that, and it's got $5,000 in it. Along with that, then we reduced the general council commodities by $3,000, which had previously been the allocation for those. So we just kind of moved it and increased it. We increased the transfers from the general to the general from the utility fund for those increases. So it went from $168,000 to $173,500. Then we increased the transfer from the utility to the capital improvements from $100,000 to $250,000. That was to allow, by doing that, the money's in the capital improvement fund for electrical infrastructure, for example, since that's where that money really was intended, and it reduced the cash carryover column that we had. So that cash carryover is $125,000 some odd now. So it just kind of moved the money around, but it's still in the same fund. So, and then the police department is still called police department because in 2019, the first column in the budget, it was still police department. Moving forward next year, it'll be renamed to law enforcement. So it's more accurate as to what that really is. Any questions? So the next step is then for me to send the notice of public hearing, or budget hearing, notice of the budget hearing to the newspaper for publication this week. So we need a motion to approve that.
So do I hear a motion to approve it going to be printed? Moved by Larry. Second by David. All in favor? Approved.
And the budget hearing is 6:45 on August 10th, just before the next council meeting, 15 minutes before. And so at that meeting, as we have well, even if we do, if anybody comes, it's at that meeting that you make the final approval of the budget. Any questions?
Okay, next item is that Granite Telecom proposal.
So I contacted Nextech, and the proposal is out there on the share. So I did contact Nextech, and they looked at everything, and they are not able to offer us any better pricing than what we currently get from them. So based on that, the quote that we got from Granite, I think that they can save us some money. I'm not 100% sure it's as much as they say it's going to be, because I'm not convinced that the numbers they're using for our current costs are completely accurate, but they're close, and I think that they can still save us money. Probably $150 a month would be my guess.
Can you talk to Eric anymore about those savings over there?
Not about the savings. I just asked him about if he was pleased with the service, if he had any complaints, and he doesn't have any complaints with them at all.
savings that they're telling us it is?
It's a month-by-month thing. It's not an extended contract, so we can cancel it any time and go back to Next Tech. I don't know if Next Tech will raise prices if we go back to them. We've got a kind of an old, I don't want to call it grandfather, but we had an old plan with them that they couldn't really compare apples to apples with what they currently offer, but,
Spent 25 years in telecommunications, and I'll always tell you the truth.
oh, great. Well, I will have our attorney look over anything before we sign it, if you guys decide to do this.
What's everybody's thought?
Where's Granite based on?
The sales rep that I've been talking to is in Florida, and the company is in New England somewhere.
Okay, so Next Tech is Kansas, Lenexa. I don't know if that's $150 a month, and I don't know if their service has been that great, but it's,
Jen had a good point. She wondered if we have an issue, who comes out and services it.
currently it's AT&T almost
Almost all of them.
exclusively, because although they sell the contract, AT&T's the one who has to do the line service on the thing.
So that wouldn't change.
And that wouldn't change.
They're not coming any further west than Hayes as far as anything big. I mean, DSL or anything like that. I mean,
Next Tech,
AT&T.
oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Next
Got
week,
their
we used to get back to the schools, but,
They round up the bill. If it's $688 and some odd cents, they round it up to the next dollar, and that money goes to Roundup for Youth.
Well, are there any, I'm sorry, I didn't look over it yet, but are there any, say we went to them and we find out, well, it's a lot more, and it's month to month, which is good, we can go back, but are there any install charges that we'll have to pay for going to them?
He says no.
Okay.
That would be, I was going to say that would be something I'd have Lauren look at, along with anything he's saying.
It'd be a long time ago, didn't cable communications propose the same system and the same contract?
Well, they wanted to do, so our lines are all landlines. They're not internet lines. Eagle wanted us to do the internet lines. And I had concerns about that if, we lose our internet, we lose our phones.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Now I remember that.
And I personally didn't feel like that was a good thing to do. We had to have a phone.
Unfortunately, we've had a couple outages on the Eagle that would prove that to be just the case. Of course, that shuts down your internet for a second. Yeah, I just remembered they had proposed something, but yeah, that was all IP-based.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, two different things.
Well, what's everybody think? In some ways, I feel like we need to look out for ourselves if we're going to live here in Kansas, so. Why help somebody in Florida or New England?
What are these potential additional charges?
Yeah.
For intrastate usage, interstate usage, so, you're paying for
Maybe
the,
long distance.
so you're paying for the phone plus you're paying for long distance calling?
Well, we do that anyway on our Next Tech.
But the good question that was posed is, who's going to service us?
Well, like JR said, it's going to be AT&T, and that's who services us now. If we have an outage with one of our phones, we call Next Tech, and then Next Tech.
That's not who you want to service.
That's the only one who will, because they own the physical lines, and on anything landline-based, they own
Basically, all we're doing is sending our money to somebody.
So it's like us buying power from somebody in California. It still comes through Sunflower lines. AT&T is the Sunflower of the phone system.
Nothing's going to change, is it?
No.
No.
I mean, if it was a large savings, I don't know.
And the only true alternative to AT&T is the internet-based phone system that Eagle proposed.
And if that's fine, then why wouldn't we go with that?
significant outages on it.
Like we cut last year, 2 years ago.
And I mean, that's gonna happen in anything.
Yeah.
But
You guys have someone local to repair it.
I don't know,
What,
but they would actually be physically doing the
they're not
line
doing a comparison of what
changes
the
in AT&T, and they
intrastate
come out,
and
we've had trouble
interstate.
at the theater, the pool, or whatever, they're a lot of times a week out.
Is there anybody else here that's on internet phone system? Because one of the things that you'll notice right off is like, on a regular phone, you can dial 2 or 3 numbers and wait, and then dial a couple more, and wait, and then dial the rest of the numbers. You cannot do that on internet phones. If you don't get that number dialed, and if you skip a couple seconds, you gotta start all over. There's no pause or no give and take on it.
If it forces efficiency, I don't see that as a bad thing.
Old people like us, it's a bad
You
thing.
can't remember the numbers.
That'd be bad for
Where are
me.
you using that?
Um,
Where are you using that?
We had it up here in town, up at Ghost.
Because they can change that setting.
It was AT&T.
Well, yeah, they can change that.
What about
Yeah.
these lines around town, all the coatings wore off of them, and they're just almost bare lines, because they didn't keep them out there. Replace them.
It's not their market, their capital.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if we can compare what we're currently.
Well, what is our decision on this?
I think they're,
For us?
seems like I looked at that and I think these were comparable to what
I
we're.
mean, it doesn't save us money, but is it?
Well, but does it save you money? Because there's not a comparison of there's not a comparison of what the per minute rates are compared to what you currently have with Nextech. Also, intrastate calling is significantly more expensive than interstate calling.
But I think that's comparable to what we're paying currently on Nextech.
But we don't have those figures that way.
Well,
I mean, is there a way to access what?
I have a Nextech bill out there in one of the meetings.
I don't think it's worth it. I would compare it to getting our power through KMEA, who's doing nothing more than pushing contracts at least the next tech. And I know that's still through AT&T lines, but it's still, that's way out there. It's promoting that market of selling things without having physical things. I mean, Nextech doesn't have physical lines here, but they do have physical lines. They do have trunk lines. They do have fiber in the state of Kansas.
And they do have
I'm pretty sure, granted, this
space
is
on our tower, right?
But that,
But they have some space on our tower.
Nextech, I
No.
don't think so.
Yeah?
No.
Well, do I hear a motion what we should do?
I make a motion to stay.
I would second. One of the things that bothered me when we first got the grant proposal that we went through 3-4 months ago, and I was so new, I didn't say anything. But just glancing through it, I saw 3 or 4 misspells, and I thought, you can't do that if you're putting a proposal together for it, make a difference, a town. So it bothered me, so.
Okay, a motion was made by Darren, second by David. All in favor? Leave it. It stays with Nextech.
Trying to find.
Property cleanups?
So the one that we had on the list was, it's going to be on the tax sale. And the other one, Gordon's from the last meeting, and I haven't been in touch with you as far as I noticed to appear on that one.
Right, no, there was an issue with something on that I need to get with you. I need to get with you, and I just have not been able to do that.
Fortunately, they continue to progress on it, because I think they know this is coming, but I still want to, I do want to proceed to that
Right.
to get it finalized.
We will, yeah, and we have that on, my goal is with the time we need for notice, it should be set for the August municipal court date. I mean, we can't get it set, we couldn't get it set before then anyway, so we'll get it set for the August municipal court date, get the summons issued and served. And then the one that is no longer here is the one that's on the tax sale? Is that the?
That's right.
Okay.
Coin.
No, and I checked on it with Matt on several levels. I can't think. Also, that one definitely is, right? Because that was the other one, we couldn't get him notified, but it's not.
We still haven't had it, I mean, it still
Wouldn't
hasn't
be
been
anything
served.
to do with it anyway.
Right.
Right, so, yeah, if you would give it to me so we can get that one in motion, and then we'll,
Right.
all the other ones I checked with the man bond are going on tax. I think every one of them I mentioned to you last The difficult situation we're in is when there's 6 or 7 of them that obviously need to be dealt with, that the city needs to be after, and they're going on the tax rolls, and then we start serving papers on ones that are not nearly as bad. I guess it's a little bit of a contradiction, but I'll see what I can do. Because we need to move forward regardless. But it makes no sense to spend any time or money on ones that are going to go to tax. So it's kind of in a limbo situation. When do they do that? Isn't it normally some weird time of year, isn't it?
That's what it was last year.
Or it's not a fixed
No,
time?
it's not.
Okay. I would be curious to know and follow up, make sure they get that done so it doesn't skip another year or some weird thing. Because their intent is to do that every year now, right? That literally, in and of itself, could do us a lot of good if they would just follow through. I mean, it was the first one in 21 years, 22 years, whatever the case is. Anyway, there's other properties that need to be dealt with. If you hear a complaint about them, I think that's the best way to describe it. I mean, most of the worst ones have to do with tax sales. Why doesn't the city do something? Anything we do with it is going to be just money out of pocket. It's going to tax sale. Anyway, we can do our notification and mowing, but as far as claiming about this, a waste of resources, depending on the level of how bad it is. So anyway, we'll get together on that thing. You get in contact.
Yeah, I'll get in contact with you. I'm working on getting it together. It's one of my things to do. I was out of town at a conference last week because I needed to get my continuing legal education in so I don't lose my license at the end of July because all my CLEs got canceled due to COVID in the spring. So I'll get with you. I mean, I should be just emailing you a document for your signature, sign it, get it back to me, I'll file it with the court. But that should happen this week. We'll get notice served, and then I anticipate the person will be brought forth for a first appearance on the 19th of April. Or, excuse me, the 19th of August, not April.
And we would need to get either sometime prior to that, for that appearance thing.
Well,
wait a minute,
no, the first appearance is just where they go in and they either plead guilty or not guilty, and if they need, and if they can prove that they
past,
need
we
to
have often made it contingent, I'll think back on that a little bit, because we usually utilize that with the judge in a way that if we could set a time frame on that first appearance. We just need to make sure the procedure on it's right, and that Judge Keller's happy with that too.
Yeah.
All that she remembers of it. It's to save us time going back and forth too. If we get them to comply, that's the main objective here, not to keep going back and forth.
You know, I don't know how that's going to go with this, but everything that I've had before, everything other than one thing that I've had before the court, after the first appearance, I guess I can wait till my attorney report to do this. So, I mean, but everything that I've had before the court, after the first appearance, has contacted my office and basically said, how do I make this go away before a trial? And I've just said, here's the full amount of,
That's what it is.
Here's the fee,
Contact to find
right. And I mean, that's usually what the judge.
That's the proper procedure we need to go by, and after the first appearance, they make that contact.
Right. And I mean,
That's what it was.
usually what happens is they contact the city or they contact my office, the judge will tell them. Because if they appoint counsel, I can't contact them directly. If they don't appoint counsel, then I can once they call my office. But the moment counsel is appointed, I am no longer allowed to speak to them because they're represented by counsel, so I must go through the other attorney. And so I've not had anyone other than one case, which I actually took over from Mike, that's still going on. Everyone else has just contacted, and I've basically said, here's the fine, here's the court costs,
I knew there was something that kept us from going back to court on these plaintiffs, and that's what it is.
Yeah, it's generally that, and I mean, if we need to go back, we can, but I'm hoping that
So we get what we've done in the past, and I know we're going over this, but I want to make sure we understand how we do that. Is after the first appearance, what they do is they make contact, we do an inspection over a given amount of time. In the event they fail at that one, then there is the second appearance based on time frame and completion.
Right. Generally what we do, and I will, the judge had one case where we filed, they had the first appearance, and she set it for a bench trial for the next motion day, and I guess the thing is that we'll just make contact. I'll just appear, I'm already going to be here on the 19th, and so I'll just say, rather than setting this for a bench trial, we request that you set it for a status hearing, to give us time to work with them on getting it into compliance as long as they are making progress, so we don't have to have a bench trial going forward. But yeah, we had one matter that was just immediately set for bench trial, and I will just ask that it not be immediately set for bench trial. Yes.
Okay, project's pending. Look at or worry about right now on project's pending.
The transient vendor, I put Cody on that to call around. She was on vacation all last week, so we haven't made a lot of progress on that, but by the next meeting she will have all the information that you guys asked for regarding what surrounding communities do, and we'll be able to present that at the next meeting.
Are you going to do your library?
Yeah, well, here in just a minute, yeah. Got the library, we got the bids here. I guess we can go ahead and do it right now. Last meeting, we opened up a couple bids, and since we had a quorum, but yet Amanda wasn't going to be able to vote on it, so we needed to go back over the bids on the library, on the two projects, and the bids were Finley Construction came in, or Finley Energy came in at $10,000 even. And then TJ Improvements came in at $11,259.81. And so we had some discussion there, and Amanda was going to have to refrain from voting, so we had to wait till tonight. I think so. I went over pretty good with both of them. I think they both, I've got the smart side siding, and that was the thing that I wanted on there, and they both have it on here now. And whoever we award this to will get that sample and show you what we're doing. I think it'll dress it up a little bit. It'll give it a little color. There's that smart side siding. There's one called Redwood that almost matches the brick to a T. So we'll kind of do some capping and go up to gable ends with some of that to break up all the white and stuff. So, and both parties did it that way. So. And we don't always have to accept the low bid. You don't have to.
Where's Finley located?
Atwood.
We should keep money in town. This is my one.
What's that?
I think we should keep business in town.
Finley out of town?
Yeah, Finley's out of Atwood. And Travis is here. It's $1,260 basically is what it is.
Travis
Difference.
has also done a lot of other work for the city.
What's that?
Travis has done a lot of other work for the city.
And in the library.
I think we got someone local, but almost of the city.
Is that, that's okay if we take the,
Yeah, you don't have to go.
I know, like trees and stuff, it's not.
Yeah, sometimes you do. The
I was
trees, there
asking.
was too much difference
Yeah.
on that.
Just asking.
Yeah. If it's a large amount, and that's why I wanted Finley's to redo their bid, because that first bid they had was didn't have what was smart siding in it like Travis did. That brought it closer together. Well, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion with that.
Okay, David's made the motion to go with TJ improvements. Okay, I'll second it. All in favor? Okay, let's go with TJ. You want me to let him know, or you want to let him know, or?
I can let him know.
Okay, let him know, and then tell him that we'll probably try to, I don't know how soon he was gonna do it either, because I told both of them we were in no hurry. So I think it's gonna be a later fall project, is what it's gonna be. But before he starts the project, we'll wanna show everybody that siding before he orders it, so. Okay, street project, anything on that? Better than what-
Trees are coming down. That's about all we're gonna see this year.
I know I've heard a few people go, well, why do you gotta wait? Well, it's just gonna be that way this time. Hopefully
Well,
this year.
save you money as the taxpayer, I guess, in St. Francis, not the rest of the project.
Bids will come in better.
Yeah.
When will we start doing the bids?
I don't know. All we know is there was no way to make it into this year, but we're gonna do those. I think the intent is to have spring work, so it should be on. I don't think you probably would put bids out there prior to the work year being, close to completed this year, which is late September sometime. But I'll find out, I'll get a schedule, what he thinks we should do, to get it out there as soon as we can and take advantage of the extra time.
Are we doing anything with Washington Street this year? Oh, sorry, not Washington. College.
Fox,
Yeah, that.
and I don't know the price on it, the same people that blow the sewer chip. That's the next line, I guess.
Oh.
Well, anyway, yes, that's the same contractor that is the chip sealing we're gonna do on Whittier, that 1-2 block area. They also do the fog sealing, which we'll do on College, and then we'll hopefully get that in the next 2 years to get a chip seal on it, and that should seal it up for a decent amount of time. Yes.
Okay, move on to pool report.
We're getting towards the tail end of the year. There's discussion going on right now as to how long we're going to be able to have a pool open. We're kind of talking with Kelly back and forth and Bruce Swihart. Don't have a definite date yet for the end date. We're trying to push towards, I think, the 16th. As far as being able to have some pool activity. What we're running into a little bit is whether or not we're going to have enough guards to be able to push that far. Kelly would like to have lap swimming and exercise continue through the end of the month. I also would like to, I think she's pretty much gotten the go-ahead for the kids to have the pool open on Sunday afternoons once the final day of the pool gets done. There's been a little bit of discussion about August 8th. We are not in favor of that. We would like to push it up until the 16th because Bruce found out today from Dave Morrow that athletics should not start until the 17th. So assuming we've got the staff to continue to do that, what I'd like to see happen is at least a minimum of 3 days that week before school starts. Because I think school's starting the 20th. We want to push this just as far as we can. We just got to make sure we got the staff to accommodate it. And we've got to be able to appease the public as well. The more use we can get out of it, the better. That isn't been a tough year all the way around. We do have at least one guard at things fall into place that we can get. We had extension on some of our certifications. We've got one guy that we got to get certified yet this year, which they're planning on coming back next year. Ideal thing would be able to keep the schedule, keep the pool open, and go regular hours through the week after the 8th. I'm not convinced that's going to happen yet. But if we can get some time out of it, and then I haven't had a chance to talk to JR about what's realistic as far as keeping the pool open in regards to where are we spinning our wheels for no reason.
Does the school have any interest in using it? And
Haven't in the past, has not been approached. I don't know.
they always used to do that for 2 weeks. The school would use the swimming pool. Now that we have a really good one, they don't do it. So I don't know what changed there. I think guards was a lot used to it.
Yeah,
They weren't able to use
that
their
school
own.
would come down. The other thing that we've got kind of in there right now is there's at least 7 more private parties that are not scheduled, that would schedule if we can extend the season. And my understanding at this point is I think we'd have guards to cover those, depending on when they were scheduled and everything. So that's something we're considering too, as to whether or not to try to extend the days versus doing the private parties. There's a lot of unanswered questions we're going to try to get knocked out maybe this week.
Both of those in the evening.
They're all evening.
Maybe I should know this, but I don't, but is the pool able to be heated?
Yes, it's heated. But that's one of the issues that we've got to watch too. If we're only going to be open 1 or 2 days, that's not cost effective at all. So, I mean, we're trying to juggle a little bit to get as much use out of it as we can, but we also have to be a little bit realistic. I'm hoping to know more yet this week.
Yeah, you might want to have 8 parties if you could extend it. We just talked about it on the district team meeting the other night.
Our goal has been from the get-go is to try to get as close to Labor Day as we possibly can, if we can get the staffing. One of the things I've thought about a little bit, and I haven't approached the school board yet, but possibly looking at some adults that might be interested in lifeguarding, where we went around into the issues of, like, we're losing one guard here in less than 2 weeks because she's headed to school, which we always have that. Well, we're fortunate that we've got younger kids at this point, but we don't know what kind of sports activities are going to pop up, if they're going to have camps, if they're going to have, they can't have coach practice to dance until at least the 17th, from my understanding, from what I found out today. That sound right?
That's a change.
Yeah, that could all change too. I mean, they could totally do away with athletics or postpone anything until spring, but who knows? Pretty good attendance. Still very pleased with how the summer's gone. That's all we've got, unless you guys have questions.
Any questions? Okay, we hear a motion to accept and file the pool report. Moved by Derek, second by Amanda, all in favor? Building permits.
We had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all out there on the board.
Anybody have any questions on any of the building permits?
The last 2 on this are not signed. They have since been signed, so there's no contingent on my approval. These are all to be approved.
No issues. I'll move to approve the building permits.
It's been moved by Larry,
Okay.
second by Cale, all in favor? Approved. Superintendent report.
Okay, this year I'm still going to continue to try to line up some work on street work without pinching our money too hard, doing some One of the ones I'd like to do is at the end of Main Street, co-op the trucks that just almost run through the concrete on that thing. It's going to be around $8,000. Brock gave me a verbal quote today. I didn't get a paper on it, so I don't want to get the okay on that, but I will be asking for that one specifically, and possibly some more alleys. Again, I'd like to do as many as we can, but we have to maintain our spending within line. But the co-op, so it'd be the north side, right by the stop sign. It's going into the off the street, so it's basically the pan on the north side of the far west end of Main Street. It's pretty much gone, and it just holds water right now.
That goes up by the elevators?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a specific product of many trucks. And really old concrete from the 30s too, I suppose. So, anyway, I'll bring a price quote on that one, but I would like to add some additional intersections and alleys to that. As I mentioned before, the trees are being removed for the street project for spring. And when we was talking at the budget meeting the other day, I suggested we have budget authority for $300,000 on the electrical work. After considering what the pricing is, and we're kind of test driving that, I think I'd like to, with council's approval, do $150,000, about half that amount. That will be a total of $286,000 this year on the electrical because of all the materials we bought. I just think we're overextending if we go too much. We've got a lot of big ticket items coming up. That gives us about 25 working days at the rate that they're doing. I'm going to suggest that we take the contract to form that was part of the bid documents, extract the bid information from it, and so just have them complete the work at the hourly rate to fit the specifications, just take the bid stuff out of it. I can have Lauren look at that, but we've done that kind of thing before. I'm not too concerned with it. But yeah, I'd like to now to approve that so we can get a contract drawn up for the $150,000 of labor from Ward Electric.
Okay, can I hear that motion? So we'll be done this morning.
Yes.
Okay, moved by Cale, second by David, all in favor? Approved.
Okay. And on that same thing, they'll be here in about 2 weeks, so I'm going to have to get this contract thing figured out pretty quick. We do have their insurance, we got all the information we need at the office, so it's just a matter of getting them a contract to do the work. Obviously, the hope is to continue this, but I didn't want to overextend the first year and either not be able to do work next year or not be happy with what an excessive amount of money this year. So hopefully that works out to keep moving forward. Back to the streets, the chip sealing, we should be doing that this Wednesday. That's in cooperation with the county. Actually, they mostly do it at this point. We usually provide a truck for that. So hopefully we'll get that thing surfaced by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think, is the days that they're going to be doing county roads and that street. Like Gail mentioned, what we're doing at College Street, hope to fog seal it this year. I don't have a price on that. That's the same contractor that's going to be doing the chip sealing. Once I get a price, I'll come back. That usually gets done anywhere from mid-September to the first part of October. Very necessary to protect that street, and then we'll chip seal it in the next couple of years. We did break a pole in this last storm. You see we got a truck holding it up there on, I guess, by River Street, and just old infrastructure. Last thing I've got is trash rates. We're starting to get upside down with our contractor. The trash service that raises 2% each year. We're starting to get upside down. Now, I'm not suggesting we need to make money, but we have administrative costs. We should cover our expenses without a doubt. So I think we need to look at trash rates. In line with doing that, I think it's probably time to look at our surrounding communities, just like we did talking about with the council and mayor, is check our surrounding communities, check what the rates are, and make sure we're not stepping out of line with anything. I mean, we don't want to be 20, 30% in the town just down the road, and we've always done it that way. So aside from doing trash rates, I think going into fall is usually a better time to do that because it takes a little bit of time. Everybody's a little bit however they do their rates are tied to water. They're kind of complicated sometimes, so I think towards fall, we'll probably look at doing all rates, but it was kind of sparked by the trash rate that I was informed is, I've been telling me this for 2 years, but we're actually there now. So we'll be reviewing rates. Obviously, that changes our revenue scheme of things, but it doesn't have to have anything to do with the budget this year. So,
But I think I mentioned that to you in the 2021 budget. We did budget expected revenue to be higher than,
2%.
a little more than that, actually, yeah. So it's built into the 2021 budget, a proposed increase.
So I would imagine the electric alone would account easily for that amount, but we need to look at our rates just to make sure we're increasing a little bit at a time. There's a history within the city for a very long time that a really high electric rate, so it never got changed. And if you don't raise them every 3 or 5 years, you end up doing that 300% increase on the sewer rate like they did when they funded that thing. So it's just good to review it, even if we don't raise rates on everything. It's just good to know where everybody else is at and make sure we're being responsible to our expenses.
Is that trash on a contract, or is it a year?
Actually, we need to get a new contract. We've been going off the 2% increase, but we don't have, currently we're not on a signed contract, but it is an annual contract
Supposed to be,
2
but
years
it's,
out.
yeah, it's fallen through the cracks, yeah.
And as far as actually running based on the terms of the contract, they do very well at that. Most 2% rate is right there, so I think that they're probably more at risk of not having a contract than the city is. But I did discuss that with you the last time I talked to them as well.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept and file the superintendent report? Moved by David, second by Derek, all in favor?
It was Larry and I, Larry or myself, and I'm like, I don't care.
Second by Larry. All in favor? Okay. Attorney report.
I don't really have anything to report. I see that the fireworks ordinance was discussed last meeting, but no, I just see from the minutes that there was a discussion of it, but there was no, I guess, resolution reached, no decision reached. I didn't know, since there wasn't discussion of since there wasn't details of what the discussion entailed, I didn't know if I should bring it up again. I didn't know if I should bring it up under projects pending.
I think that's up to the council.
Right. No, I see that it's under projects pending, but in the minutes, there was no discussion of what the council said. It just says there was council discussion. So I didn't know if there was council discussion and then I should have brought it up under projects pending, or if I should wait till my attorney report to do it. We moved on before I raised it, so I don't know if you want me to bring it up now, or if you want me to table it until next
It's
June.
right now until the council gets enough stuff. I mean, if you've heard it, that's fine, but you shouldn't be bringing it to us.
Okay.
I think it should be coming to council or myself. Then if we see that we need to do something, then we take it to Warren to have to change. But right now, if the channel's going through Warren, it's going through the wrong channels. If people are talking to her and not talking to us, then I think
Right.
that's totally wrong.
And I mean, the way it was brought to me is why is the ordinance framed? And I think what it was is they were asking about the ordinance. And so I will just let the people who spoke to me know they need to reach out to the council. I think the reason they came to me was everyone basically said, why is the ordinance this way? And because it was the ordinance. Yeah, I've never had anybody else discuss a city concern with me, so that was bizarre. But I had 5 people try to discuss the firework ordinance with me. So I will just let them know if they want anything done, they need to speak with their elected officials.
I think so.
I will pass them on to you. I don't have much else other than I have a case in city court that's kind of been a lot. And so I just kind of wanted to let the council know that. I can't discuss the details of an ongoing case, but there has been one that's been a bit more involved than any of the other cases, and so I just wanted to make the council aware of the potential for a large litigation. I think we've got it. There is opposing counsel in it, and so we are going through the court process. I think we will not need to go with litigation. I have proposed what I think is a reasonable diversion agreement, and I am hopeful that it will get signed, but I can't discuss the details of the ongoing case, but I wanted the council to let the council know that it is a pretty substantial matter. Other than that, I don't think I have anything other than I will be getting with JR to file the property cleanup.
Anybody have any questions for Lauren?
What was the fireworks? What was the issue?
The issue is that people were saying that when you say that it only goes until midnight on the 4th of July, it's not getting dark until 9:30, 9:45, meaning there's only like 15 minutes for fireworks. And when the 4th of July next year will fall on a Sunday, you're going to allow people to shoot them off until midnight right before a work day. Why can't we extend the curfew at least on the Friday and the Saturday before the 4th of July? Why can't that be 11 or midnight? And so that the work nights, if the 4th of July falls on a work night, for the next 4 years, it's going to fall on a work night, and we're letting people set them off till midnight on that day, even though people get the 4th off, not the 5th, and they can't set them off. They're getting, I guess, recorded or yelled at or chastised on Facebook if it's 10:05 on a Saturday and they're setting them off. And so it was, why is the ordinance written that way? And I think what happened was one person talked to me, and then they said, I talked to Lauren about this because every other person who brought it up to me mentioned the first person's name. And so I think that that's why it was directed to me instead of to you. And it did originate with, why is the law like this? And my answer is because that's what they approved. That's what they approved. That was before my time. But I did think, pertinent to bring it to council, and I will just direct those individuals that if they want change, they need to speak with the council directly or contact the council directly or come to a meeting and discuss it and raise the issue.
We had talked about waiting until spring and if we need to address it, we can or something.
It's something to think about, and that's why we put it on the projects ending and stuff, and so maybe some other ones will hear some more stuff between now and then we can decide what we want to do with it. Okay, do I hear a motion to accept and file the attorney report? Moved by Cale, second by Amanda, all in favor? Clerk report.
Our folks that we had cleaning our windows, they've been doing it for years, even before Jen got here. They would come every couple of months and clean City Hall windows. They are no longer going to be doing that, and they referred me to a company over in Colby called New System Window Cleaning, and I talked to the gentleman over there. He's going to come over, if it's okay with the council, and look at what we got, but he has said he will service us for the same price as what we were paying the previous folks, which was $65 every time they came, which, like I said, was every couple of months they would come and clean the windows. And if that's okay with you guys, he's going to come over this week, and I didn't know if I needed to put it out for bids, but I don't even know of anybody else around that does windows. So, okay. Very good. And then I've got a band shell rental here from Kelly Hilt. It's not a special event. She just wants to rent the band shell. But it is it's for the dance team, and it's a fundraiser to raise money for the dance team, the high school dance team, and it's a dance camp for the little kids, the little girls. But she was wondering if the fee can be waived since it's a fundraiser for a nonprofit organization. The dance team.
Oh, that's a nonprofit.
Yeah, they will. I was gonna say, they've had it for years. I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion is made by Darren, second by Cale, all, everybody was in favor.
Okay. Amanda, I'm going to hand this around to you. I already had everybody sign it. This is just the signature card for our CDBG bank account. It's already been approved. The council already approved that account. Chicken permit. I have a chicken permit here from Jennifer Milne, 220 South Adams. JR has looked at it, approved it. She's not planning on putting the chickens there right away, but in case she needs to bring her chickens in from the farm, she had some problems with animals eating her chickens, so I wanted to be proactive and have a place to put them.
Is there a motion to approve the chicken permit? Moved by Larry. Second by Darren. All in favor? Approved.
And I think we covered everything else on my list. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept and file the clerk report? Moved by Davis, second by Cale, all in favor? Council comments, David.
Good. Cale, I want you know I'm going to be bringing an application for the beer garden for the Council Park at the next meeting, so anybody sees any problem with that,
Andy? Darren? Larry?
The Rec Commission had asked if, they talked about putting a volleyball net in the park behind the courthouse. And just kind of caught me out of number two. But we looked at that when we were doing sand volleyball at one point, and there wasn't enough room, but we're just asking about possibly putting a net up in there where the kids can go down and spark the ball around and go over and that stuff. I have not had a chance to go down there and look at it. The one thing we ran into the last time was we don't want to eliminate a lot of that space in there where we can throw the baseball, throw the football, or the kids in there and stuff. So I just told them I'd bounce it off you guys, let you know about it. I need to take a look at it. As long as it didn't take up too much space, and I don't know where the fuck we're going to put it at.
it would be a good spot for the sand volleyball.
It would, but when we looked at it the first time, it was going to take up too much room in the park. We felt a little uneasy about taking too much space out where kids would like to run back and forth and play football, throw a baseball, or whatever, frisbee. And it'd have to be behind the courthouse if they're not doing it, so. But they're not talking about, they're not talking about doing sand volleyball, it would just be a net.
Well, if it sets that by it, they can work on it.
You'd have to set holes in the end.
It'd be too cold.
I want to look at it. I think that's a lot.
Okay. I'd like to have about 5 minutes of executive session about job description on personnel.
Do you want everybody in the executive session? Do you
No,
want just council? Do you want me in there?
No, I think everybody can leave it. It's just council. It's just going to be a little bit of job description and probably nothing decided on it tonight at all.
Thanks, Phil.
There won't be anything decided on it tonight. It's just a bit of job description. That's all it's going to be. And if they want to do something, they can do it at the next meeting. it's just food for thought, the job description.
I'll call you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. I got a question for you, I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank you.
I think I heard a message.
I think Amanda was too.
As part of the reason is some of you missed out on the last time we talked about it, so just want to get everybody on the same level.
Can you guys believe it's almost August? Can you believe it's almost August? Summer's almost gone.
We didn't have a spring.
You're having it now.
Today.
Okay.
Muggy than today. Wow, the last several days is, wow.
So I move to go into executive session for 5 minutes coming out at 9:52 for the purpose of personnel and job descriptions.
Except I think it's 8:52.
8:52, well, it's 9:52 on the East Coast.
Not elected personnel job description, okay.
With city council.
Okay. Okay,
Now we're ready?
yeah.
Okay. Now do I hear a motion to adjourn? Moved by Larry, second by Cale. Everybody stand up and go home.
Okay.